you for tuning into From the Cowboy State podcast. I'm your host, Michaela Getz. As always, this is University of Wyoming Extension, Agriculture, and Natural Resources podcast. This is season 2, episode 4. And today we are joined by Sabina Wyse. She is not only our Park County Extension Office admin over in Powell, but she runs a family operation, 307 Genetics, and so that's kind of what we're going to dive into today. So I'm going to turn it over to her and let her introduce herself.
Thank you for having me, Michaela. Like Michaela said, my name is Sabina Wyse, and I am one of the co-owners for our family operation, 307 Genetics Show Pigs. We started this project about, 20 years ago, maybe, something around there. It started out as just a small 4-sow operation that we only bred them in September and had the babies in January, but now it's grown tremendously and we've learned a lot along the way, and we're excited to see kind of where 307 goes from here.
Awesome. So 307, you guys do a lot. Like you said, it's grown, but how did you guys, I guess, originally start? Where did this come from?
So it actually came from my oldest brother.
Okay.
So my dad grew up raising cattle and sheep. Mm-hmm. So he was a big cattle and sheep guy, not a pig guy. And my oldest brother one day just decided he wanted to show pigs in 4-H instead of sheep. So my dad just kind of ran with it. And then we decided to start raising our own because, as I'm sure you guys are aware, buying 4-H pigs can get really expensive. So we started retaining some gilts that Paul would start showing. And that's just kind of where it took off. Then we just fell in love with it. Yeah. And our whole family just decided this was something that we wanted to keep doing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I got to go out to the 307 barn 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Something like that. And you guys had the piglets. Mm-hmm. So cute. First time seeing anything like that. I think you see things like maybe on social media of people having their operations or showing what have you, and maybe they do, like you said, retain their pigs that they showed and just try to maybe do something small. But it was really, really neat to see everything that happens there and how you guys have your layout and everything set up. Mm-hmm. And it was cool to see the piglets because, again, it's just completely different from cattle, from horses, from anything else I've seen. And then you had a vet out there at the time, and she was ultrasounding one of your sows.
Yep.
And that was really neat to see too, because again, I've just never seen that, and that was just one of the cool things to see.
Yeah. So Jane is a vet over in Lovell, and she actually went to vet school specifically for pigs in, I believe, Wisconsin, if that's where she is. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure it's Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So she is usually our go-to just because she knows so much. She's very knowledgeable. She also has the perfect hand size to reach in and help us get babies if that's ever an issue, which she's done that for us quite a few times. But the ultrasounding thing, it is very cool to be able to see. She has like that little machine that she's got there, and she always goes into detail and shows you like whether or not she sees things in there. And on bigger sows, it's always typically a little more challenging because the more depth of body they have, the babies can kind of hide from you, even in an ultrasound. So that's why we had her out there that day. So
no, that's super neat. So let's talk about, obviously you guys are in the genetics, you AI?
Yes.
So what does that process look like? I feel like people are maybe familiar with AI in cattle, and at this point, horses, sheep. We kind of talked about, we had a conversation one time, that does not happen too often because you really have a 50-50 shot.
Right.
But let's talk about the pig aspect of it. How does that?
So we typically start matrixing all of them so that they all cycle at the exact same time.
Okay.
That just helps us so that all of the litters are born within a couple days of each other.
Sure.
It just makes it a little easier on us. So we'll start matrixing usually the week of state fair. Women are not allowed to touch the matrix because it actually messes with women's bodies. So I've never done it. So it's usually either my dad my husband Tanner or my brother Paul when he's in town. So I'm not 100% how they do it. I know they used to like stick it in hot dog buns of all things and feed it to them because it's easier than spraying it in feed.
Sure.
But so we go ahead and do that, and then we actually pick boars a little before that, but we'll really set in stone stuff during state fair as well so that we can have semen ordered. Collection days are usually earlier in the week.
Okay.
So you kind of need to know ahead of time. We don't like sending semen over the weekend just because sometimes FedEx it gets lost, UPS it gets lost.
Or like this time of year, you don't know if they're going to end up on the side of the road.
Right. And the semen that we buy is fresh. It's not frozen, so it has a time limit of going from A to B.
Yeah.
So you just got to be a little cautious about that when we buy things. And then we, instead of having like a special refrigerator for it, we actually use a wine cooler.
Oh, okay.
And we set the temperature at 63 degrees.
Oh, that makes sense though,
and you rotate the semen so that it stays good. It's usually good for 7 days. It never usually stays in there that long unless for some reason the matrix didn't work.
Okay.
And then we'll go in. We have a teaser bore on site.
Okay.
So everybody gets ran through to the teaser bore to see whether or not they're in standing heat. If they're not in standing heat, then that means they're not ready.
Okay.
So typically, if they're ready, they will be stuck. Like there's no moving them. Ears are pinned back. They're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
So that's how you typically do it. There's like, we use pipettes too and gel as well. And that's, you have to stick it in through the cervix and do it that way. Typically, we hit them with 2 doses of semen.
Okay.
If we have a third, that would actually be ideal, but most of them just get 2. And then we let them go and see if they check back in 3 weeks. If they're not back in heat, then it's safe to say that they caught the first cycle.
Yeah.
If they don't, then we purchase more semen and try again for a second time. After that second time, then the babies start not coming until February, and that's a little too late for us, so then we just let them go at that point.
Okay, fair enough. And so when you're talking about timeline-wise and saying too late, are you talking about like 4-H and showmanship-wise, or?
Yeah, so, and this is funny because the show industry changes all the time, right?
Yeah.
So the new thing with the show industry is you want them older.
Yep.
So when the pigs are older, by the time they go to fair, they're more mature. They have more hair on them, more bone growth. You don't have to start them on hot feed immediately.
Okay.
You can take your time and slow them down. So when they are born in February, you've lost that whole month of growth in January.
Yeah.
So when people buy them in March, instead of being 60, 70 pounds, they're 40. So that's always struggling.
It's a lot of catching up.
It's a lot of catching up. Februarys are great if you want to take them to like the Nile in October.
Sure.
And we have done that. Some of our smaller ones have gone to the Nile and we've done that ourselves. So that's always an option. But you really want them born mid to late December, early January.
Interesting. Okay. So let's talk about the 4-H aspect of it a little bit. There are a lot of kids up here in Park County who show multiple animals, one, etc. What, I'm going to ask a couple questions. Kind of what is that process, one, if you decide, yep, I do want to show pigs, like your brother. If
Sure.
wants to make that transition. Nope, thrown in the towel, want to do pigs. And then 2, what are you looking for when you're picking out your show animal for the season?
There's a few different things. So I always tell people, first-time 4-H'ers typically want pigs because they think it's going to be the easiest.
Okay.
I personally think it's not. It's probably one of the harder ones because pigs are a lot like people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They can be extremely stubborn. They can be really hard-headed. They can, their skin is a lot like people. You have to truly take care of them like a little toddler, basically. So ours are in a barn 24/7. They are under shade. They have fans on them.
Because they can get sunburnt and everything and like welts.
Severely sunburnt, yep, if you're not careful. And so I just Not that you can't do it your first time, because obviously look at my brother, but it's just not as easy as what everybody thinks it's going to be. It's a lot more than I think sometimes what they bargain for.
Mm-hmm.
So I always just want 4-H parents to keep that in mind.
Yeah. And not to cut you off, because I know I asked you another question, but while we're talking about getting started in that, all of your animals have a nutrition plan.
Yes.
So can we talk about that process a little bit too? Because you talked about, if you've got your January or your February piglet that's going to be ending up being showed later in the year, that nutrition plan, because you said you don't just want to add hot feed, kind of want to gradually. So can we talk about the complexity of like nutrition plans and feeding appropriately and everything?
Yeah. So typically when the babies leave us and go to people, we try to give them the feed that they're already on. So we are dealers for ADM Show Tech feed.
Yeah.
So we get semis in all the time and also distribute it out to anyone who buys from it.
Nice.
So we always try to give people one bag of feed to mix with. If they don't want to use Mormon's Show Tech feed, we always tell them, take a bag from us, mix it, because if you don't, then your pig is going to have diarrhea for days.
Which is just like any animal. It's like if you bring a new puppy home and you don't transition that food slowly.
Right. So I always tell them to do the same. And then we always have them on 18% protein when they leave. And they're just on pelleted feed when they're that small. They're not on anything super fancy yet. And so then you it depends on your pig structure, right?
Okay.
And how well they carry weight. So if your pig grows at an exponential rate and you want to slow them down, you back off the protein. So then you start looking at the 16s, the 11s, something more of that nature, just to slow them down, because they blow up too fast, they hurt their legs, they hurt their joints, and they just get really stiff. So by the time July rolls around and you're in the show ring, that affects it. Yeah. Right. So there's that complexity to it. And feeding is an art. There's so many different kinds of feed out there, supplements. There's a million different ones that you could go through. My dad and I typically sit on webinars for Mormon Show Tech feed, and that way we are up to date with all the different kinds of feed that are going out there, because they're always bringing out new products and new supplements, and we just want to make sure that our customers are getting what they need and what they want. So we go through that as well. But ration wise, it just depends per pig. But I mean, one pig could have 2 pounds of feed with a half cup of more body and 2 ounces of Paline, and you always got to make sure they have a lysine pill on them and Navigator, whatever else they need. So
there's a whole concoction.
It's a whole concoction. We always have it written on a whiteboard, so that way,
no kidding,
you never miss one. So
no, that makes sense. Okay, so sorry, jumping backwards to what I had originally asked you. Let's say that you've stuck to your nutrition plan, everything like that. You're getting ready. It's May, June. You're getting ready to go into show season. Try to say that 3 times fast. What are things that you're wanting to like refine or look for in your pig?
So,
and I guess, sorry, let me pause real quick. The reason I'm asking is because I got to sit in the swine barn with you at Park County Fair. And honestly, first time in there, never been in the cow barn, been in the horse, but first time in the swine barn, I did not know like what the judge was looking for. I didn't know what was good, what wasn't. I was just watching kids and their intensity and then, their animal or showmanship.
So it all boils down to what you bought back in March, right?
Oh, okay.
What you're looking for in babies.
Okay.
So you can tell a lot of how they're going to grow based on how they look when you get them. So one thing that you don't want is like the super short snouts.
Okay.
That means they're going to be short backed.
Interesting.
That also means they're going to be smaller structured, which is fine if you're okay with that. Some judges don't want them that small. Yeah. They're just going to be a little small framed, which means you're going to have to feed them a little differently. Again, not a big deal, but not ideal, correct?
Just being
So
aware
then,
of what.
Yeah, just being aware of it. Then you got to look at when they're little. It's hard, right? Because they're small, they run around, they're crazy. But you got to look at feet placement as well.
Okay.
So when again, there's no visuals here, but if you're looking at them head on and they've got their feet planted on the ground, you can see where their shoulders land.
Yep.
If the shoulders land outside of your skeleton, they're going to get too big on you.
Okay.
If they're super narrow on the inside and their arms are closer together, that means they're going to be really narrow in the front and probably very narrow in the back. Again, not something you want. So you definitely want a happy medium. You also want to see how their feet plant when they walk. So some of them tend to fall back on their pasterns. My sister had one just like this, and we didn't catch it until he was home. But he faltered on his pasterns, and the older he got, the worse it got. Yeah. And by the time we hit June, he could barely walk. So obviously he didn't make it fair. But you definitely have to make sure that they're not falling too far back on their pasterns to hurt themselves. Yeah. But you also don't want them on their tippy toes to be post-legged either. So there's just a lot of little things to look for when they're little that will affect your showing down the road.
Interesting.
So then by May, June, what you're more worried about is skin and hair, and if you need a joint supplement to make sure they're on that. And at that point, I mean...
just kind of fine-tuning.
You're just fine-tuning, yeah.
No, that makes sense. So, okay. So all of that in the 4-H world, club world, what have you. Let's talk about, I guess, the swine industry as a whole.
Sure.
Agriculture faces a lot of issues on the daily, new policies, regulations, whatnot. But is there anything that affects the swine industry? Has previously?
So, swine flu back in, 2014, something like that. Hit everybody pretty hard, more the Midwest than Wyoming. The thing about Wyoming is there's not a ton of pig producers out there.
Okay.
Wyoming is kind of harsh, and so it makes it a little tough if you don't have the right structures to help them.
Facilities and setup.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that always makes it a little tough. And, like I said, pigs are people. So they are very susceptible to getting sick. They're very susceptible to just basically anything that people are. So I think you face that on the daily. One thing that we've really tightened down on in the last, 5-10 years is biosecurity.
Okay.
We are very cautious of what people wear in our barn, because if you wore a set of shoes in a different barn and they had something,
and then you bring it
into our barn and we don't know it, that affects our babies and our mamas. And so because of that, we boot people, hand sanitizer, and we usually do not let people touch the babies.
Okay.
Just as a precaution, it's just better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Especially when the babies are still in the nursery and not on chips yet. So that's definitely something that I think everybody across the nation deals with. Some people are more into biosecurity than others. And when we went to, I think it was Winmore's in Iowa, they dress you up head to toe.
Wow.
You put on a whole suit.
Yeah.
You dip your feet in stuff, and then you can enter the barn. You still can't touch the babies.
Wow.
And I get it. Iowa, they have a huge pig population. They see lots of people. So I think it's smart to
be that stringent about it.
To make sure that your babies are going to be okay. Brenning, one year, we went to go look at his boars, and he did the same thing. He suited us up head to toe. We had to leave everything in the truck. There was no phones, no nothing. And then we could go tour his place. But some people are just more cautious, and I think sometimes you need to be, because, like I said, the babies and the mamas, they're just very susceptible to everything. So
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's something that across the board, vaccinating your animals, whatever your belief is on vaccinations, but it just helps prevent your animals
Yes.
from others that aren't taken care of, aren't vaccinated. Because like you said, you just never know what's going to come into your barn. You just don't know what's going to come onto your place. And stuff like that is, well, not everything, but stuff like that, a lot of it's preventable.
Right.
If you just start from the get-go. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And that's
we're a fan of vaccinations.
So after we have our online sale and all the babies are sold, we always tell people that our babies have never seen the outside world.
Okay,
ever.
yeah.
They have been in the barn since the day they were born. The barn sits at 69 degrees on the dot. And a lot of people that buy from us up in this area and down south, they they go straight outside. Some of them don't go into barns ever, which as a producer, that always makes me a little nervous because, they have to acclimate, which is fine. And like when we first started out, our pigs were outside. So nature of the beast. But we always give them some decks to help their lungs before they leave our place.
Okay.
And then we always tell people the minute you see a runny nose, the minute they don't get up to eat, you call us. Just because they get a gross runny nose, something happens and they deteriorate fast, and people don't realize how fast it happens.
Okay.
So
that's interesting though. Yeah. I don't think I realized that if you had something come on that deteriorate, or that a pig could deteriorate so quickly.
Yeah. So we actually had a local family. They bought 2 Durocs from us a couple of years ago. One of them, they called me instantly.
Oh.
And the dad was working out of town. Mom didn't feel comfortable giving shots, which is fine.
Sure.
That takes a long time to be okay with doing by yourself.
Yep.
So I said, not a problem. I'll come out and see what's going on, give a couple shots, and should be okay, and perk back up. Coming out of his nose was like the greenest snot you'd ever seen in your life.
Oh, geez.
They have a super nice little hut for them. Lamps. Like, they were prepared.
Yep.
They were able to stay warm. He just got sick. Again, nature of the beast.
Yeah. And up here in Wyoming, probably. Yeah.
So we gave him shots for a couple of days to see what would happen. And in the end, he still didn't make it. We had to go find her a replacement for it. But that just shows you, like, she called me immediately and it still didn't work out. Yeah. So pigs are just very finicky, and they're just very...
Interesting.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a transition, maybe a segue, what have you. All the different kinds of breeds that you can have. Do you guys solely have one breed at 307? Do you mix and match?
So we typically, like when we first started, we only had crosses.
Okay.
100% just crosses. Then we started dabbing into breeds because of State Fair. Okay. Now there's all the different breeds that you can take, and you're not competing against crosses anymore.
And what are those for people who may not know?
So there's Berkshires, Durocs, Yorks, Spots, Poland Chinas, Herefords, which that's becoming a big thing now. I personally think they're incredibly ugly, but that's just me. There's a few others out there as well. I've been trying to get my dad to buy a Tamworth.
Okay.
If you guys don't know what a Tamworth is, look it up. Are they ugly? Yes. But I think we need one at 307 Genetics. And they're making a comeback. So if Joe Bridges hears this, we need a Tamworth.
Just a small little plug right here.
We just need a little, just something. So
that's too funny.
There's lots of breeds out there. Oh, and Chesters. I forgot about that. So I have taken Chesters to the Denver Stock Show. I absolutely love them. Yeah, they're so much fun. The one I had, her name was Fat Amy. She was amazing. But yeah, there's a ton out there.
Yeah.
I personally hate Durocs, but we raise them. We didn't have any this year. Hopeful that we'll have some next year. People really seem to like them. And the Duroc show at State Fair is getting really competitive, which is awesome. I love seeing different breeds thrive like that. Yeah. So hopefully we'll have some next year. We did have some Spots a couple of years ago, but that sow, every time she was in the crate, she would just tear things apart, like the water lines, everything. She was a hot mess. So We haven't bought another one since. I refuse to do Berks.
Okay.
They are just extremely hard-headed. I think they're hard to feed. They just are not my favorite by any means. So just crosses this year, but hopefully next year we'll have some Durocs, maybe a Tamworth. We'll see.
Joe.
Joe. No.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah.
Is there, so, I mean, you said that the Tamsworth?
Yeah.
Those are making a comeback.
Yes.
But do you see anything more heavily favored, maybe? Not even necessarily up here, but I guess just at fair?
Crosses.
Okay.
Crosses are always favored. Crosses always typically win. So that's the thing about breeds, right?
Sure.
Breeds their characteristics are different.
Okay.
So if you look at a Duroc, they're more rounded. They're a little more soft-bellied. However, now that the genetics are where they are, they can compete with a cross, but a judge is typically going to pick a cross.
I got you.
Now, depending on the type of cross, so there's dark crosses now and there's light crosses. So the blue butts, the silver-colored ones, those are more light crosses. The silver and blues, those are my personal favorites.
And is that what Sloan is?
That's what Sloan is.
This year, Sabina and 307, they have this special little piglet, and she was the runt of her little litter,
Yes.
right? Oh, she is so cute. We will include a photo
Yes.
on the social media posting we do for this episode. She is so adorable.
Yeah,
really, this
we love
episode
Sloan.
should have just been about Sloan.
Yes.
No.
She's so sweet. So that's my favorite. Everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
But blue is also starting to make a comeback. So for a while, blue, they were super fun to show, but they didn't win anything.
Oh.
But now you start looking at like what just won Denver this year?
Sure.
Blue butt, which was wild. And that thing was freaky good. So we mostly just have those. At the state fair, they don't require papers. So I know people in the state breed solid white, and you can pass it as a York at the state fair as well.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there's just a few different avenues.
Is there, and I'm sorry, you might not know that, but why does the state fair not require papers? Is that just for pigs, or is that for all animals across the board?
So I'm only ever in the pig barn, so I'm not
Sure.
100% sure about the others. I'd have to ask my husband about the sheep. For pigs, a few members on the state fair board, they have tried
Oh,
to make it so that it was papered, because a lot of other places across the nation are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you buy purebred, you will have papers.
You've got them anyways.
You've got them.
Yeah.
So people debate on whether or not it's worth it. Because the Wyoming State Fair, it's small enough as it is.
Sure.
Some
Don't want to
people
limit
thought,
entries.
Right. We didn't want to limit entries.
That makes sense.
Which the pig show, I think, is actually pretty substantial.
I mean, I haven't been to the state fair yet, but the Park County Fair, I thought it was.
Yeah.
I mean, again, first time experiencing that, but I think I was there on a Wednesday night,
Wednesday.
and we were there until 11 o'clock, and it started at 5
Yeah.
for all of the classes and everything, so it seemed really prominent
Yeah.
personally, but
Yeah. And I think it is at State Fair too, because backtracking a little bit, but one of the things about feeding is you individual feed
okay.
pigs.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You individual feed them, you have them in individual pens, they're never together.
Yeah.
So at State Fair, there's just limited pens, which it happens. That barn is just not big enough, especially when everyone wants one pen per pig. And
Sure.
back in the day, we had 12. So we needed 12 pens.
Right.
And that's just one family.
Right.
So I think if you also look at it that way, it just looks like a load of entries at State Fair as well. But yeah, I don't ever foresee the Wyoming State Fair saying you have to have papers, and maybe they will a couple years down the road, but
Yeah, who knows?
yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go with that.
It is. So what else does need to be covered, do you feel like?
I don't know.
Honestly, I
don't know.
feel
I feel like
like
we talked about a lot.
you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just asked questions. You did all the talking. No, but I sat here and I'm learning a lot.
Yeah. I think other than like the show industry is extremely different than like the production side of pigs too, if people think about it in that aspect.
Okay.
So
what's the major, is there like a top 3 major differences or?
Well, I think like one of the major differences, like so show pig wise and production wise, show pigs, you're chasing genetics, right? Like we travel everywhere. So we get semen from California, Iowa, Illinois, Texas, all over the place. And with production, you don't necessarily care so much about.
It's more focused on the meat.
It's more focused on meat.
Okay.
Right. And more focused on like, you get them to a certain weight so that you can get them to market. Whereas show pigs, there's just a lot more factors involved in it. And because of that, like you also have that stress gene as well with show pigs. I haven't been on a ton of production farms. I'm sure those pigs also have the stress gene as well. It's probably just not as prominent as it is in show pigs.
Yeah. That would be a really interesting study to see.
Yeah.
A comparison.
I think so too. So the place that we bought here in Powell used to be a production pig farm. So
that makes sense. I can see that. Yeah.
So the guy that ran it, I think he had 1,500, 2,000 pigs on that place at one point. Wild, right?
that is a big production. Yeah.
Huge. So the way our barns and everything are set up, it was set up for that.
Makes sense.
Yes.
I can see that.
Yeah. So obviously we've had to do a little bit to revamp, but yeah, it's very interesting production side versus show pig side.
That would be.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah. I think that's it. All right. Well, thank you. First of all, so much, Sabina. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. This has been season 2, episode 4.
Thank you for having me.
I'll include that. Thanks. Oh. As always, I'm your host, Michaela Getz. This was a University of Wyoming Extension, Agriculture, and Natural Resources podcast. Thanks, y'all. As a reminder, this is the University of Wyoming Extension podcast. The university is committed to equal opportunity for all persons in all facets of the university's operations and is an equal opportunity / affirmative action employer. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about this statement, please don't hesitate to reach out to mgetz@uwyo.edu. and we can get your questions answered. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the podcast as well, again, don't hesitate to reach out to that email address, mgetz@uwyo.edu. Again, this has been a University of Wyoming Extension, Agriculture, and Natural Resources podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Funding for this UW Extension program is provided by the John P. Elbogen Foundation, Communities, Agriculture, and Rural Living Project Funds.